Alright, so we've got 69 Chevy pickup, and this one's just a standard V8 4-speed truck transmission and a regular, I believe this is a 350, but they want to put power steering on it, so I've got this kit here. Comes with a steering gearbox, which is power steering, and it'll have the 2 hoses. This is your power steering pump. You've got Pitman arm, rack joint. Let's see. In this box down here, there's your pulley. You've got to have that, and that's the one with the keyway slot in it. So you've got to have that. This one has a keyway on it as well. I'll need fluid, and I'll need a belt, and probably a few bolts. There might be some modifications to it, but I don't know what it'll need for sure. But this will be an interesting little project, and we'll see what happens. Now, there are some people that give this kit out of 5 stars about 3.5 stars. They say there is some modifications that you have to do. A lot of it has to do with these brackets, but they did say that there was some improvements that they had done over the last few years. So it should be pretty straightforward. I'll have to read through the instructions to see what all goes together and see what happens, and kind of go from there. I've got the fan and all this stuff off here, just kind of gain access to the power steering, and I thought, well, I'd try to clean all this out because it looks like it's got quite a bit of gunk built up down inside there, so I thought I'd try to clean that. This is one of those type that doesn't have an actual center bolt on it down inside there. So get my flashlight down in here. There's nothing in there. So anyway, they're pretty interesting to work on, but the good thing about this one is it's got that second sheave on there. The first one, well, I should say the inside one is actually the alternator, and then this outside one here is going to be the power steering. So hopefully the brackets will work properly. I've got a couple things here that I think I need to change one of these studs. I'll get into that a little bit, and I'll show you when I get there. Alright, so another thing you're going to have to do, this power steering pump is going to bolt into these bolt holes down here in the block. And the problem is nothing's been in there since the 60s. Well, never. But the 60s, it probably was a clean hole. So I've got to go in here and I've got to put a tap through there and clean that hole out. And all they had was a bottoming tap. So I've got to get that in there and get it just right. Come on now. Yeah, that's what. Yes, in there. Yeah, see all that garbage in there? That's got to be all that's got to be taken out of there, or else you end up packing that down in there. And you can actually hydrolock the bolt hole. If you get it too sealed up in there and tighten that in there, it can pop it. Sometimes it'll pop it on the back side here. There's a little bump right in there. It'll pop it. This one here won't. It'll pop it into the engine, then you'll have a leak. So we don't want that. So now these, you kind of have to keep this kind of loose to get this all set in there. I don't know that I'm going to be able to do this holding the camera and letting you watch, but what this thing has to do is you've got this little stud you've got to put in right here, and then on the back there's a stud right there. You've got to be able to slip those two in there and then sandwich the pump in between here. So I'll probably have to pull this part out first, slip that back one in there, and then go ahead and put that one in there. I'm going to do that right there off camera just so that I can do it and not drop it down into the muck down in the drain pan. Alright, let me catch you up with what's kind of going on here. Alright, this is the original 2-sheave pulley off of the original 350 here. Now, the problem that I'm having is that this pulley on this aftermarket power steering pump, it doesn't line up with the second sheave over here. It only lines up with this third sheave. Now, I've got a 283 out of a Corvette, and I got this is a cast iron piece here, where this is a steel stamped piece, and I was able to put that on there, kind of cleaned it up a little bit, painted it just to kind of give it some character, and I think this will work. I'm not real sure about the belt or anything like that, and I've still got to put the pulley bolt on there and tighten the pulley and whatnot. But you can see, get my flashlight kind of over here, you can see, let's see if I can get this to move a little bit for you. It just barely clears, but it doesn't have as much of a throw right there. Now, if you pull the cap off, you've got to have the cap. Oh, they get that glued on there. What did they do here? There we go. Alright, so there's the cap. Now, I can bring that all the way to here with the cap off, and I can get pretty good amount of belt throw on that. So that's probably going to be okay. Right, look in the back, and right back here, let me make sure that you can actually see this. So if I move that back and forth, you can kind of see that most everything does tend to be out of the way, but I'm worried about this hose here is probably going to come out to right about here, and it's probably going to hit this. So I'm going to have to move that down or move it around the front over here and then up here to the steering gearbox, because where that power steering line goes is going to be just down inside here. So hopefully that's going to be enough adjustment there, and then of course the other power steering pressure line, that'll hopefully go in there, and that'll go up to this. Right here underneath these two lumps. I could probably just open that up. Just doing it with one-handed here, but you can see the two pieces there that these come off. I think that's pressure and that's return. I'd have to look at it, but like I say, I think that's going to work okay. But you can see how much further up this is. And then we have, there's a rag joint in that box right there that you're going to have to use. So I think that's going to work right in there. So let me keep rolling on here and I'll bring you up to date here in just a bit. Oh, and also another thing is I've got to get this, these are so tender, but I've got to get this unit here pulled out of there, because I'm going to reroute that around the valve cover and down through this hole in the alternator bracket. That way it'll keep out of the way, won't get into the belt, because I got to keep in mind I'm still got to put the belt right here on the alternator, and it's going to come back over to this pulley sheave here, which I believe drops down to this first sheave. And so I've got this, they call this A, B, and C, and so I've got A going to the alternator and then C going to the power steering. So that's why I had to have that third sheave. That middle one I don't believe works for anything, but I have heard that middle one is for the air conditioning. So I may be right, I may be wrong, but it's a little bit thicker. As you can kind of see, the way my finger sits down inside there, and it kind of sits up a little bit on both of these, but sits down a little bit further in there. So I think that's air conditioning. Alright, so I've got the alternator belt replacement here, and I've got this is a 15.355, I believe. So it's just going to go around this lower, or this third sheave. But I put this dollar in here to give you an example of something you got to watch for, and that is the actual fact that it's going to rub. It's pretty tight. It's going to rub on this bracket here. So with that belt being extremely tight, it's going to probably squeak on the edge of this bracket. Now that bracket's about as far in as it can go. So what I'm going to have to do is take this alternator bracket and shim it out just a little bit. Not very much. You don't need a whole lot, but it's going to have to move in order to make this thing work. And you can be considering that this belt is pretty long right through here. It can come out just a little bit and probably not going to affect it at all. But having that in there is probably going to get that belt hot. It's probably going to keep that bracket probably nearly red hot at times, so we've got to fix that. Hi girl, what are you doing? You come for a visit? She's a good baby. Are you a good baby? You coming up to help? You coming up to help? She's a good girl. Yeah. Yeah, good baby. Look at your curly cues on the ends there, huh? What you doing? You good baby? You wouldn't come up here and take a nap, don't you? What's that? You want to help? Help inspect it. You better check it, make sure my work is right. Alright, so I took the pump back off, and what I'm finding is that alternator belt, when that belt comes down through the bottom down here, what it's doing is it's actually hitting on this bolt head. So I'm going to have to take this washer off, it looks like, for one. Now that I've got these pieces tightened up against these two areas here, I noticed that this one will fit, but this one down here does not. So what I think I'm going to be able to do is probably clean this up a little bit, both of these pieces, take some of that paint off of there and give me just a little bit more room between those two. Because if I can get it to smash down just a little bit more, I think we're going to clear, because it's hitting that bolt pretty good. If I let it go, it'd probably shave, I would say, well, at least the thickness of that washer, if not a little bit more, off of the head of that. Alright, I got George back on the scene here. So, I pull that thing tight. Just still a little tight right there, pulling out of that, between that lower bolt and that belt. So I think we're still going to have to do some trimming. I think what I might do is I might get my little mini grinder and just kind of tap the edge of that bolt head right there and take some of that powder coating off of there. That probably would help. That'll get it down, because I think this, if you look at this bit here, see if I can get it. Get that bit in there. It goes in quite a ways, so I've got enough room. I could probably shave a little bit more of that one off of there without it hurting anything. Let me try that. There's still quite a bit of room there. Let's see what her belt looks like now. Get it over. Come on, you stubborn. See what you think there. Let's get George. Get in there, George. Tell us. Okay, pull on that alternator. She's still a little tight. I think I'm going to have to give her just a little bit more. I think just shave just a little at a time. I think what I might do is take a little bit more out of these pieces here, these two. Shave that down a little bit, and that'll put the bolt inward just a little bit more. And then I got to be careful that I don't shave it so where I can't get the adjustment out of it right there. So I have to hit this area here with the grinder. Just kind of tap that down just a little bit. You're just barely going to make it, but I think we'll make it. Alright, George, now let's pull that belt a little bit tighter there and see. Oh yeah, that's a whole lot easier. Yeah, I think it's going to work a lot better. Alright. I had to shave a little off of the inside, these pieces here. I took the bolt and I cleaned the edge up around the bracket and also the back side of the bolt. I think a lot of times this powder coating looks nice, but it kind of gets in the way. So I did that, did both of these pins, and got it tied up against there now. And then this piece here, let's see if I can hold the camera and show you. It's got a pretty good, see, that's another thing too, is that that belt goes right here. I can actually show you. Yeah, these belts are such a pain. Let me put you down a second. belt's pretty tight right there. And you can see where the cap is. You can see the gap on the cap. There's no way that cap is going to fit in there. So if I put this back here, put the cap back on there, I don't think it'll go. That's funny. So then, what do? Do I have to cut the bottom of this thing here, this alternator bracket? Geez, that takes some of my strength out of there. Yep, that's probably why this thing got 3 or 3.5 stars. I think that's gonna. Yeah, she's definitely off a little bit. Well, probably ought to get all this. I need to put the steering gear box in, a bunch of other stuff, and I may just do that and get all this put together, tightened down to spec and everything, and see how it works. That pump pulley looks like it's heading in the wrong direction. But I'm going to do all this together. So anyway, I'm going to get a part 2 for you pretty soon. Alright, so looks like we're going to be in for some modification. And of course, story of my life. Most everything that I've gotten needed to be modified. But we'll figure something out. If I have to build a new bracket, then we'll just do it. But I think the way that pump is in there, moved up against the block, I don't think there's any way to move it out and recenter it. I think, you know, this company must be doing the best they can, but they still need a little bit more in engineering. So anyway, I give you a thumbs up. Thank you for watching. And like, share, and subscribe. And we're going to see you on part 2. Thanks a lot.